afternoon, folks. This is Lord T. Walthour again for part 2 of our series on how to configure a MAME arcade setup. If you remember from our first video, we had the PC already set up. So we're going to show you quickly just a couple of additions we added to the PC. As you can see, we added a LED power button. We also added a set of speakers, amplifier for those speakers for the system, as well as another cooling fan for the actual arcade cabinet. You can also see we got in our supply, we got our buttons today, we got our joystick, we got our PCB board, which is our actual emulator. This is the I-PAC V2, which I spoke about earlier, as well as our wiring. So the objective today is to show you how to wire not only the LED button, but also a standard button. So I'm going to show you how to wire these LED as well as a standard button. What's the difference between illuminated button as well as a standard button, as well as how to wire the joystick to our board and then be able to test it, because it's important once it's wired to test it to make sure that everything is working. So we have our wiring harness, and this is just standard wiring with this is a 0.181 actually 187 head on the actual wires, and this is just wire you can get from any hardware store. You can order it online. I actually ordered this online. Well, actually, when I ordered the buttons, the guy gave me the wire free for getting the buttons for him. So I actually saved, and it's about $3 worth of wiring. But we have our ground and our power. This is specifically for the LED lights. And then we have our ground cable, which is for hooking up to our buttons. And then I have some other cable that's going to allow us to hook up to the PCB board. Okay, so a couple of things. Let me tell you a little bit about these switches. Here's our LED. Okay. So as you can see, the switches came in. This is our LED switch. And the LED comes in actually 4 components. So you have the actual plunger button. You have the connector for the LED light. You have the actual LED light. And you have the micro switch. So this is what connects up, and when you push the button, it actually hits this micro, which sends action to the controller. The only difference between the standard switch, you see it has the same micro adapter to it, is that for the LED switch you have this holder, which has both a power and then a ground in. So we're going to show you quickly how to wire this up. Okay, so the first thing is putting the actual switch together. This is just how it comes. It comes in, if you can look at these bags here, they send them in pieces. So it's simple to put together, but as you can see, that's how they actually send them. And here's the actual LED lamps as well. So let's get our glass here. So the first thing we need to do is to hook up the micro switch to the actual lamp holder. So it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. So put that front end in. Snap it into the holder. Snap that back. Snaps right into place. Okay, and this is a 2-channel micro switch. Most of them you see have 3. Have two connectors, a NC and an OC, and a ground at the bottom. Then you take your LED lamp. Now, what's important on this is you have a power side as well as a ground side for this connector. It really doesn't matter which side you hook the wires to. However, on this LED bulb, you have a ground and a power as well. So if your light doesn't light up, you can just switch it. So it's important when you are wiring it to wire it consistently. So on one end, you have a 1 wire, you have a 2 wire on the other end. So I put the 2 wires to the front. So that snaps in there, and then the actual switch itself snaps on, goes over it. Let's get it over there, and twists, and clicks right into place. So that's how you actually assemble the LED button. The same for the standard button. You just don't have the 2 power and the ground wires on the side, but hooking it up is actually the same. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is show you how to wire these LEDs. Okay, so we have the power, which is our yellow cable, and this is hooked to a regular 12-volt system. Now, this operates on both 12-volt as well as 5-volt. But being I have a PC connector for my computer, we're going to hook it directly to the power supply. Okay, so I'm going to hook up one of these and I'm going to hook them up. Sure, okay, so if we start with this switch, so we start with the ground is always on the bottom for the actual switch, but on this switch, we're going to hook our ground to the right side. Let's take your connector, stick that in there, alright. Then we're going to take our power cable for the other side, connect that. Right now we're just hooking up the LED so you can see the actual buttons light up. So we already have these ones together, so we're going to follow the same procedure. Power to the right, ground to the right as I'm looking at this switch. And power on the left or the front. Simple hookup. Switch number 3. And if all goes well, we should have power once we plug it in. Okay, there we go. Alright, so our switches, our buttons are set up. This is just for the illumination for the LED. And we're going to plug her into our power supply and we should have power. Okay, and voila. As you can see, we have power. So it's a real simple operation. And for every one of your buttons, you're going to do the same thing. You're just going to daisy chain them down the line. And this is just for power for the LED, for the LEDs. So if you got 20 buttons, you're just going to do the same thing down the line for each one of your luminous buttons. Now, to actually hook up the buttons to the controller, alright, we have our wires. We already stripped our wires, so we have a little wire cutter that we stripped, alright. Well, we're going to do the ground first, okay? We'll hook up the ground first, alright. Now, hold on 1 second. Okay, on this I-PAC board, it's labeled. So let me look at this camera here. You can see better. But it actually has your ground, your joystick connections are right, left, up, and down. Then your buttons. So that's switch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to 8. Then it has a 2-player start, a 2-player coin, and an A and a B. And you can use these switches for anything you want. There's a software program called I-PAC that lets you configure this switch. So you can say, instead of using player 2 button, I can use player or 2A button or 1A button. You can reconfigure this switch however you want. I'll show you that once we get this wired, and also show you how you test it. Remember, this is nothing but a keyboard emulator. So we're just going to plug in our ground. Everything has to be grounded. So it's the same principle. You start with the ground wire, and we're going to hook this up to the player. We have a player 1 side, and we have a player 2 side. So we're going to hook this up to the player 2 side. It's a little easier for me right here the way I'm working. But it works exactly the same for both sides. So let's stick that little connector in. Our terminal, screw it down. Give it a nice tug. Okay, so that's our ground. So now we're going to take our buttons, and this is whether you're using a illuminated button or your regular standard button. They're all wired the same. So the ground is always the connector at the bottom of the switch. So what we're going to do here is we're going to actually plug it into our ground. Alright, and this follows the same daisy chain process as these switches is. You're just going to daisy chain to every device you have or every switch you have. You're going to actually ground it. You need to make sure that switch is grounded. Okay, so we have our three switches there, which we all have them ground. You would do the same for every one of your buttons. Okay, next, we're going to hook up to the player 1 button. So we have, it says 2 SW1. So player 2, switch 1, all the way down, as I said, to switch 8 or further. So we're going to do the same process here. Now, on my microprocessor or my microcontrol switch, I only have the 1 contact. On a lot of the switches, you're going to have 2 contacts, but you always want to use the bottom one. So always the NC bottom one for whatever switch you use. So we're gonna go through the same process here with this wire. We're going and wire color does not matter. However, when I hook this up for real to be consistent, I color code it just to be consistent in the wire. But the wire color does not matter as long as you keep it organized and tidy. So we're going to put this one to 1. Same process. So assuming we're in the cabinet, this is switch 1. So we're going to take that. Hook that up. There we go. Okay, we'll use our black, which is usually ground, but like I said, wire color does not matter. We're going to go into switch 2. We're going to lock that down. Give it just a little tug. Make sure she's secure. So for switch 2, all right. There we go. And then we're going to use our red for switch 3. Very simple process. The key is organizing this when you have a lot of buttons. And in this cabinet, there will be a lot of wire for the button once you go to the joystick. So, okay folks, so now that we have our buttons hooked up, we just hooked up our joystick. The joystick is the same process in hooking up the buttons. However, one thing I want to show you. When I hooked up this is a Sanwan joystick, and this has a little 5-pin connector, little 5-pin connector to it. So if I was mounting this into the cabinet, I would mount this up this way with the pin facing to the left. that would ensure that my buttons will be in the correct order if I follow the line. So you have, if I follow the colors, so I have black, green, yellow, orange, and red. And there's a way to be able to actually check this, which I show you through the I-PAC software, because every harness wire is different or can be colored different. So it doesn't guarantee that when you do up, your up is going to be up. But one way to simplify this with a sand winder is, I know if I keep these wires in the order they are, face this to the right, I should be right. But anyway, wiring this is the exact same as wiring the, hold on, let me get that in there. As wiring the buttons, you have your right, left, up, and down. And we went through the same process, just sticking the wires in. So now we have the joystick wire and we have the buttons wire. And you would do the same thing on the other side, which would be player 1 or player 2. So no matter how many buttons you have, when you have 20 buttons, 30 buttons together, you're going to go through the same process of daisy chaining them and wiring them. So now let's just go through a quick test. Okay, so we're going to plug in our PC board. Now this is a regular USB board. Okay. Okay, we're going to open up I-PAC. That's the software that allows you to be able to control this. So you see we have a little green LED light on our board showing you that our board's on. And as if you look into the actual software, there's a little function that says whether it's disabled or switch. So, alright, here is how. So we're on player 2, okay? 2, right is G, left is D, up is R, and down is F. Okay, so now what this program allows you to do is, as I explained earlier, you can reassign any one of these buttons by literally just going into here saying, okay, so if I want pin 2 not to be down, I want it to be switch 1, I can just change the switch through here. So this just allows you to actually configure this board for whatever button combination you want. So whether you have a coin door, whether you have a 1 or a 2 player, sorry, a 1 or 2 player type switch, this allows you to configure. But then lastly, let's just test it. And remember, this is a keyboard emulator, so all it does is emulate the functions of a keyboard. And one way to actually test this is you can go in and you can open up Notepad, because this software is not going to actually test it, but it will allow you to see for your joystick what letter is doing for up, down, left, right. So you may have to switch those wires if the letter doesn't correspond to the correct position. But anyway, we would go in and we use Notepad, and you should be able to see that screen, okay? And as we press a button, we should get a letter. Remember, it's just emulating the keyboard. So we press this, like A. Button 2, S. Button 3, Q. Now what about joystick? Up is R, right is G, left is D, and down is F. And to verify that, we can go to this joystick control. So we'll say right button should be G. When you go to right, should be G. Left button should be D. Down button should be F. And the and the up button should be R. So this just allows you to test the controller, making sure everything is working. all our switches are operating. So, I mean, that's pretty much it for wiring the arcade system. Of course, as I said, one of the most important things is making sure you label your wires and use ties and keep it neat. So if you have any type of problems, it's easier for you to go back through and troubleshoot those problems. But it's a pretty simple operation. So I think the next video, we already ordered our arcade case. So we're going to actually put these buttons in, since we actually showed you how everything works. The PC, we're going to mount the PC. I think our next video will be to where we're actually start configuring the hyperspin, the actual hard drive with the games in. Because once I get it, I go through the process of prepping the box, right, painting it, the artwork, everything. I may show some simple things on that, but at this point we're going to be ready to, I think, go live. So once again, thanks for joining us, and we showed you a simpler way how to wire your MAME system. Signing out.